Welcome to the Morning Edition Extra. I'm Adelmi Ruiz, coming to you from Alaska's News Sources Digital Desk. Thank you so much for joining me this Tuesday morning. Our top story, the Anchorage School District stares down a $90 million deficit, and leaders say deep cuts may be unavoidable. The district must just release a proposed budget the superintendent calls severe, with tough decisions ahead for schools and families. Lauren Maxwell sits down with Superintendent Jarrett Bryant about what comes next.
ASD's proposed budget for next school year may sound familiar. Hundreds of teaching positions cut, middle school sports gone, and popular programs like Ignite out. The difference this time, according to Superintendent Jarrett Bryant, there's no money to bring them back.
The school district has the lowest fund balance that we've had in many years. So unlike previous years, we won't have that fund balance to lean on.
He says federal COVID dollars are long gone. As for more money from the legislature,
And I've not heard signals that suggest that there's more funding for schools along the way.
the district says severe cuts may be inevitable to fill a projected $90 million deficit.
I would say that it's going to be very difficult to restore large programs or to reverse a lot of the proposed cuts.
And although the superintendent says they tried to keep cuts out of the classroom as much as possible, the proposed budget would increase class sizes by an average of 4 students. Bryant says one thing that would help is if Anchorage voters passed a temporary increase in property taxes that would allow him to retain more teachers.
If that levy passes, it's the equivalent of a -2 to class sizes. So we'd be going from a +4 to classroom to a +2 if the levy passes.
Bryant says he knows the budget process will be difficult for the community, but says the reductions may be the only way the district can become financially sustainable as it moves into the future. Lauren Maxwell, Alaska's News Source.
Heading over into weather, here's meteorologist Aaron Morrison with more on what we can expect.
Yeah, we are waking up this morning. We've got some gusty conditions across South Central. We're expected to see winds of about 20 to 55 miles per hour. We're also going to be watching some localized areas of freezing rain. This looks most likely to occur through the Copper River Basin and then out towards southern parts of the Susitna Valley, where we could see that better potential. Of course, largely going to occur in locations where those temperatures remain near to below freezing throughout the day. And we've also got that freeze-thaw pattern that remains with us across South Central. So moisture moving in across the coast. It's warm enough that we'll largely see all rain across South Central, outside of some of those higher elevations, as well as through the pass, for both Thompson Pass as well as Turnigan Pass, which may see more in the way of a wintry mix, if not a rain-snow mix. And of course, you can see so far this morning, we've seen just under 1/4 of an inch of rain out towards Portage. Inland areas of South Central will see ample dry time today due to our rain shadow. But even then, we should see some of that moisture streaming northward later this afternoon into the evening, which may provide a brief opportunity for some light rain showers, if not some freezing rain. So we're going to continue to hold on to both South Central as well as southeast with this active weather staying with us as that moisture streams northward over the Alaska Range. We'll see some increasing snow for the interior tonight into tomorrow, where we could see a couple of inches of that snow accumulation. Of course, higher amounts will fall along and northeast of the Steese Highway. And then we kind of dry out into our Wednesday for South Central, another round of some rain building in towards southeast. And then by Thursday, we'll see another round of some possible wintry mix building in across South Central. We'll also see some snow moving in across western and southwestern parts of the state for the foreseeable future, which will keep a couple of inches of snow in the forecast. Now, when it comes to the rain across South Central, we'll pick up several inches through the rest of this week out towards Prince William Sound. Now, through tomorrow evening, we'll see about 1 to 3-ish or so inches, while inland areas of South Central as a whole will largely see about 1/10 of an inch of that precip. So any freezing rain we see will amount to a trace to about a glaze. But again, it only takes a glaze of ice to cause some issues on those roadways. And then by Thursday, you can see that heavier band of rain builds back in, which could bring an additional round of 1 to 3 inches of rain through Prince William Sound. Now, winds this morning for inland areas of South Central, we are going to see 20 to about 55 mile per hour wind gusts, and those will largely stay with us this morning into the early afternoon hours. And then throughout the evening, those winds kind of die down across South Central. Thankfully, with these winds, we're not seeing any cold conditions across South Central. So the winds are going to be a lot more manageable considering where we dealt with those windy conditions as we went through late December and into January. And then through the rest of the week, we'll see the occasional breeze, but nothing significant to be expected. But we are going to continue to hold on to this warm weather pattern. Temperature sitting in the 30s, mid 30s looking likely. And of course, there's our next chance of wintry mix Thursday with snow arriving as we welcome in next week. Speaking of that snow, that is going to impact the interior later today and on into the overnight hours. I think this is overdoing the amount of snow that we'll see, but we'll still see in the range of about 2 to 5+ inches. And again, some of that heavier snowfall will fall along and northeast of the Stees Highway. But be prepared for a couple of inches of that snow accumulation. We stay warm today and tomorrow, and then temperatures drop back into the single digits, if not sub-zero values. We could drop as cold as about 20 to 25 below in the coldest areas by Sunday night to Monday morning. Adelmi?
All right, thank you so much, Aaron. And while Anchorage braces for cuts, the Fairbanks North Star Borough School District is telling a very different story, a rare multi-million-dollar surplus. School leaders will review a budget this week that invests in 30 additional certified teachers, brings back elementary music, and reduces class sizes from 26 to 23 students. The chief operations officer says it is the first surplus he has seen in 8 years, crediting hard financial decisions made in recent years.
We've made large structural changes in how we're running the school district. A lot of those decisions were emotional and difficult. School closure, contracting out custodial services, very emotional. I acknowledge difficult decisions to make and difficult for a lot of folks in the community to go through, but we feel strongly those were the right decisions to make.
The school board will consider the budget and any changes over the next 2 months with a final submission to the borough by the 1st of April. At the Capitol, education leaders back a plan to rewrite how schools are funded, saying it could end years of this type of budget whiplash and sudden layoff fears. Under the current system, districts learn their funding based on a single fall student count, causing sharp year-to-year swings. For instance, the Fairbanks North Star Borough School District Superintendent told lawmakers that instability contributed to closing 7 schools and cutting 360 jobs. The proposal would create 4 funding options, including a 3-year average student count, with districts using the highest numbers. Supporters say that earlier certainty would lead school plan budgets and hire teachers without waiting until summer.
School board's budget with a lot of question marks and assumptions, and that's one of them. And so we have to try and estimate what we think the political reality is going to be for those budget decisions as we try and move forward.
And so this bill would help give the student count number in spring of the year prior to the student year. It would take a 3-year average or the prior year number, and that's the number the districts would, that's the funding the districts would receive based on their student count.
Representative Bill Elam said he worries the proposal would make an already complex funding system even harder to understand. A spokesperson for Mike Dunleavy told us the governor generally does not comment on legislation before it passes. Anchorage Teacher Union voted in favor of an agreement with the Anchorage School District. The tentative agreement includes a slight pay raise and a bump in health insurance. The 17% increase would be spread out over the course of 4 years, 3% for the remainder of the school year, 5% each of the next 2 years, and 4% in the final 4th year. The agreement also includes an increase of $200 a month for health insurance after just announcing their $90 million deficit for the next year. The school district said they factored in the cost of the increased contract.
Kids, and I hope that this means that we can retain many more teachers. They are frontline educators that make a huge difference to our kids, and I hope that this means that we can retain many more teachers than we had anticipated. As you know, Alaska is the only state in the union that doesn't offer a defined benefit, and that's a huge headwind for retaining educators, even today, even with this agreement.
Negotiation lasted months and for the first time in 20 years reached the arbitration stage. The contract still has to be certified by the Anchorage School Board at today's meeting before it is final. And Anchorage firefighters responded Monday evening to an exterior fire at Lowe's on East Tudor Road that was quickly extinguished, according to the Anchorage Fire Department. Several fire engines responded to the blaze. They stated that the fires were exterior and were put out quickly, but they were working to ventilate the building. According to AFD, no injuries were reported. AFD said an investigator was on scene to determine the cause of the fire. The extent of potential damage to the building was not immediately clear. At about 10:15 p.m., fire crews remained on the scene as they continued ventilation and investigation efforts. No further details were available. And an Anchorage court ruling is being called a major win for breweries across Alaska after a judge struck down limits on live events. A Superior Court judge in Anchorage ruled that restricting breweries to just 4 live entertainment events a year violated both the U.S. and state constitution. Before the decision, some businesses, including Lat 65 Brewing Company and Hoodoo Brewing Company in Fairbanks, spent tens of thousands of dollars on liquor licenses to work around the rules. Management at Lat 65 say they still would have pursued a license to bypass other restrictions, including limits on how much beer can be served to customers.
Live music and performances, whereas like showing like TVs to like show sports, and like we're showing some football now, like with the Olympics coming up, we'll have that sort of stuff on. Like we wouldn't be able to do that even under this ruling, so the liquor license is allowing us to do that.
Black Spruce Brewing in Fairbanks did not purchase a liquor license, but owners of Black Spruce say it is not clear if the ruling will lead to changes in their operations at this time. And be prepared. That's the Scouting America motto. But one Anchorage troop wasn't prepared for this. Their trailer and everything inside gone. Danny Tompkins has a story.
Troop 220, serving 32 kids on Anchorage's east side, faced a shocking discovery in mid-January.
It was here, and then we came the next day, and it was gone.
Here's how this unfolded. On January 14th, the trailer was right here, locked and secured. By the next morning, it was completely gone. No witnesses and no surveillance video. Just an empty parking lot and lots of questions. Inside was everything Scouts need for camping trips.
It was just full of Scout gear, tents, brand new tents the kids had just raised money to purchase, sleeping pads, kitchen gear, patrol boxes, all sorts of stuff that kids need for campouts.
The loss was not only gut-wrenching for the troop,
But it kind of puts a pit in your stomach, sinks your heart a bit.
but hit especially hard for families who relied on the supplies.
We're the only troop on this side of town, so it's all of East Side, and we have several kids that are from either large families or low-income families, and so a lot of that gear we use for supplementing their own camping supplies.
Despite the disappointment, the Scouts came together.
When we finally walked through kind of what we had left and what had been gone, but they're active and resilient, and we figure out a way to make it work.
Parents also stepped up, lending their own gear to keep the program going. And while the troop wasn't prepared for a stolen trailer, they were prepared to be resilient and stick together. Danny Tompkins, Alaska's news source.
And we'll be taking a very, very short commercial break. We'll be right back, so stick with us and stay tuned. Welcome back in, and thank you for sticking with us. Next, we have our very own John Thompson, who's going to discuss government happenings with our own Emma Wolfirst.
Well, we continue to experience a partial government shutdown. The House of Representatives facing an uphill battle to pass a new funding bill. Alaska's news source Washington correspondent Emma Wolfirst joins us from D.C. Emma, what's the latest in Congress?
Well, John, the shutdown could end today, Tuesday, going into day 4, but there's still a lot of questions. I want to do a quick recap of how we got here. Friday night, the Senate passed their revised version of this funding package with Department of Homeland Security funding pulled out. That was over concerns from Senate Democrats about ICE and federal immigration enforcement. This bill would fund a handful of agencies through the end of the year, but it only funds DHS for 2 weeks. That's to give lawmakers time to hash out potential reforms to the department. The ball is entirely in the House's court right now. The bill had to make its way through what's called the Rules Committee, which establishes the parameters for how the spending bill can be brought to the floor. We're expecting a procedural vote on the bill Tuesday. If it passes through that, it will then go to a full vote later in the day. And the question, as I said, is really support. Can Republicans get all their members on board? Because the margins are so tight, they need to figure out if they can pass this without any Democratic support. But President Trump urging bipartisan support for the spending bill. He wants both parties to join him in supporting this and send it to his desk without delay. He said Monday there can be no changes to the spending bill at this time. And we have a little bit of confidence. Monday evening, House Speaker Mike Johnson said he was confident the package would pass by Tuesday.
All right, Emma, and as immigration enforcement operations continue across the country, Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem has announced that every officer in the field in Minneapolis will now be receiving body cameras. What can you tell us about this move?
John, this came via a social media post Monday. Nome wrote, effective immediately, they would be deploying body cameras to all the officers in the field in Minneapolis, but she added that as funding is available, the body camera program would be expanded nationally. Now, this comes as scrutiny is growing, over conduct of immigration enforcement agents, mainly in Minneapolis, but also across the country. A lot of people are asking why federal law enforcement officers weren't already required to wear body cameras. Back in 2022, then President Biden ordered federal law enforcement to wear body cams as part of an executive order. President Trump rescinded that directive when he began his second term. And President Trump told reporters Monday that this decision about body cameras wasn't up to him. He left it to Nome. About body cameras, though, he said, quote, they generally tend to be good for law enforcement because people can't lie about what's happening. If she wants to do that, I'm okay with it, end quote.
In economic news, President Trump says that he has reached a trade deal with India. Emma, in this new trade pact, what does that entail?
Well, Trump says the U.S. will lower its reciprocal tariff on India from 25% to 18%. And in exchange, India will eliminate its tariffs against the U.S. completely. Now, President Trump said that Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi agreed to stop buying Russian oil and instead to buy more from the United States and potentially in the future Venezuela. Trump said this deal would help end the war in Ukraine. Modi confirmed the deal Monday. He said he was delighted and thanked President Trump, calling this a wonderful announcement. Trump said the lower reciprocal tariffs on India will go into effect immediately.
And finally, Emma, President Trump has said that he's moving to close the John F. Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts in D.C. for 2 years. What is the reasoning behind this?
Trump is citing needed renovations for the building. He called the center tired, broken, and dilapidated. He said it's in bad condition, both financially and structurally. Trump said the center would close on July 4th this year, and then construction would begin. Kennedy Center president called this a brief closure, even though, as you said, Trump said it will be 2 years. But the center's president said the building desperately needs renovations and temporarily closing it just makes sense. Now, Monday, President Trump gave reporters a little bit more detail. He said the work could cost about $200 million and that he's not ripping the building down, but instead wants it to reopen and feel brand new and beautiful. I do want to note this closure announcement comes after a wave of recent cancellations by top performers, musicians, and groups since President Trump added his name to the building.
All right, Alaska's News Source Washington correspondent Emma Woolforth is joining us from D.C. Emma, we appreciate you very much.
And facing intense pressure, Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem now says all federal officers in the field in Minneapolis will be issued body cameras, eventually looking to take that nationwide. It's one of the conditions Democrats have been demanding as part of a funding fight that has 70% of the federal government shut down. The House Speaker is confident that shutdown will end even as tensions remain high with the immigration enforcement surge in Minneapolis hitting the 2-month mark. Alice Barr has the latest from Washington.
The push is on today to pull the federal government out of a partial shutdown, with some federal workers furloughed once again. House Speaker Mike Johnson sounding confident he'll have the votes to change that.
We got FEMA and TSA and troop pay and everything else wrapped into this, so we've got to get the job done.
The House will be in order.
The House is set to vote today on a Senate-passed package that fully funds most of the government, but the Department of Homeland Security gets just 2 weeks of funding and a tall task in that time for lawmakers to negotiate reforms to immigration enforcement, with Democrats calling for dramatic changes amid unrest over the shooting deaths of Renee Good and Alex Preddy by federal officers in Minnesota.
The American people are correctly demanding accountability. The American people want to see the mask come off.
One demand already met as the Homeland Security Secretary announced body cameras for all federal immigration officers in Minneapolis, with plans to expand that nationwide as funding allows. President Trump backing the move.
They generally tend to be good for law enforcement because people can't lie about what's happening.
While also calling on both sides to pass the funding package with no changes and promising to work together to address issues raised. Though reaching agreement on the future of ICE won't be easy, with Republicans not backing down on their immigration crackdown.
If the Democrats want to throw out these ridiculous proposals that make it harder for ICE to do their job, that's just not going to happen.
The hope now to avoid a prolonged standoff. Several leading Democrats called the move to issue body cameras a good start, but they want that policy written and signed into law. Republican Lisa Murkowski agreed, citing an erosion of trust between Congress and the administration, part of the challenge with a tight timeline to find reforms that 60 senators and the House can agree on. In Washington, Alice Barr, NBC News.
2 days after 7 crew members aboard a fishing vessel were lost at sea, a tight-knit fishing community is grieving together. In Massachusetts, friends, families, and fellow fishermen gathered for an emotional memorial mass on Sunday. Mike Sullivan has that story.
The push is on.
7 lives lost at sea. It's a reality Gloucester knows all too well.
Things can change really quickly. It's just a hard life. Hard life. I got out years ago so I could see my kids grow.
Dominic DeMaio went to school with the captain of the Lily Jean, is one of many to attend a memorial mass in town.
I don't know, I'm in shock.
So this is really hard. I'm trying not to get emotional, but
fellow fisherman Al Catoni has known the captain most of his life. Their fathers grew up together in Sicily.
he paid attention to every detail possible. I mean, like I said, we grew up together, our families were tight.
So far, search crews have only found the body of one person on board. A distress beacon from the boat first went out at 6:50 a.m. Friday morning.
We have the best safety equipment in the world. And, you know, when things go south in this industry, for what we do for a living, it's just no telling.
The boat carried an observer, 22-year-old Jada Submit. In a statement, her family spoke of her infectious smile and spirit, along with her mission to protect the seas and its fishermen.
I take observers every day. It's really sad, you know, especially for their families. You know, I can imagine what they're going through.
The same can be said for the Beal family.
They're going to be deeply missed, and it's such a tragedy that this happened, but at least they were together when the boat went down, and that's all I can say.
Christian Rodolosi fished with Paul Sr. and told us he spoke with his wife at the memorial.
We'll all go on with our lives in the next week remembering these guys, but this is something that, you know, will affect them for all the rest of their lives.
A 4th crew member was identified as Sean Therian. The U.S. Coast Guard has not confirmed the names of the other 3 victims as of yet. And a warning for dog owners everywhere. A routine walk nearly turned deadly for a family pet in Western Canada after the dog ingested cocaine left behind in a public park. Veterinarians say these cases are becoming more common and they're happening everywhere. As Caroline Bargout reports, even small amounts of illicit drugs can be life-threatening for animals and our pets.
Sarah Bell is so grateful her dog Nilak is back to his normal self. Just before Christmas, she had taken the 2-year-old husky to a dog park when he grabbed a napkin off the ground and swallowed it. At first, she didn't think much of it.
He has done this a lot, so I kind of figured it was okay. It was, you know, like it's just a napkin, like whatever, fiber, great, woohoo. But about 2/3 of the way into the walk, he started acting funny.
When she got him home, Nilak didn't want to get out of the car, and his head was bobbing around and unsteady. She rushed him to the vet.
I was crying at this point because I was so certain that I was going to have to put him down. And he came to me and he said, "It's cocaine." And I said, "What do you mean it's cocaine?"
It turned out the napkin had been contaminated with cocaine, and Nilak had overdosed on it, but was going to live.
I don't know. I don't want to have to go through it ever again.
That doesn't surprise these friends. They've each had dogs that picked up drugs from public spaces and overdosed on them, but survived.
When we were up in Squamish camping, she found some marijuana and almost died. And thankfully, I was close enough to Squamish. I drove her in, and $3,000 later, and 48 hours at the vet clinic, she survived.
So I asked the vet, like, could this have killed my dog? And he said, yeah, definitely. You take your chances, I guess. The ER vet told me that this happens. He sees it fairly frequently.
Leave it.
The Canadian Veterinary Medical Association doesn't collect data on this, but says it happens across the country.
The Society of BC Veterinarians says vets are seeing more dogs with multiple drugs in their system, likely from ingesting human feces. It says dogs will be greatly affected whether they pick up a cannabis roach off the street or if they get into their owner's prescription meds.
Dogs have way different amounts of receptors in their brains than we do, especially for things like the cannabinoids. So they will get way, way more affected than we will, just off of a very small amount.
Vets say the quicker you can get your dog help, the better the outcome will be. Sarah Bell knows this firsthand. She's never returned to the dog park where Nilak found that napkin and is now very careful where she walks him, even though she knows something like this could happen anywhere.
And we are going to take a very short break, another very short break, and stick with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back in, and thank you so much for sticking with us. History has been made at the Kuskokwim 300, a premier mid-distance sled dog race in western Alaska. What was once thought to be an unbreakable record, now rewritten by a local musher. Sports director Jordan Rodenberger brings us our Athlete of the Week.
There is a new king of the Kuskokwim. And it's Bethel's very own Pete Kaiser.
Congratulations, Pete.
Yeah, Mike, thank you. Kaiser, navigated by his lead dogs Mookie and Delmer, won his record-breaking 10th Kuskokwim 300 sled dog race.
Good job, Pete. Good job.
The victory dethrones Jeff King as the race's winningest musher, who began his stretch of titles in the 90s, when Kaiser was just a young pup in Bethel.
My mom was the race manager in, I think, 94 and 95, and we'd always get pulled out of school for K300 Day, and it's always been a huge week for us in Bethel. It's a big community event, and we've been very much involved in it since I was a little kid, whether it was volunteering or just being around it or racing.
King won his last Cusco 300 in 2013, 2 years before Kaiser won his first, fulfilling a lifelong dream of winning his hometown race.
I really thought Jeff's record was unbeatable. It didn't seem like something that was even close to reaching. It was so far out there.
Kaiser went on to win 10 of the next 12 Kuskokwim 300s, including the last 5 in an unpredictable, unforgiving race in western Alaska.
Honestly, the run we've been on for the last 12 years has been pretty crazy. I can't even explain it to some extent, but very fortunate that we've had the success we've had, and maybe I can sit back in a rocking chair someday and and let it soak in a little more. Right now it's just like it's very cool.
Jordan Rodenberger, Alaska's news source.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Love you.
And the 2026 Winter Olympics opening ceremony is Friday on NBC. And we have a solid group of Alaskans heading to Milan to represent Team USA. Before the games, Jace Bertrand spoke with some former Olympians who call Alaska home to learn what athletes can expect from the Olympic experience.
The Winter Olympics return this week, and this is a special year for the last frontier. Of these 16 cross-country skiers representing Team USA, 8 have Alaska ties.
Everything they're saying right now is this is going to be the strongest U.S. team we've ever sent to an Olympics. So I'm excited to, kick back, watch the action, and I'll be doing some commentary live throughout the night.
Gold medal winner Keegan Randall will be in the booth, and she says she'll keep a close eye on Anchorage's Gus Schumacher, who just took bronze at the World Cup in Switzerland.
He is showing really good form for the season.
Gus Schumacher is just a phenom, and I'm really excited to see if he does well, but I don't want to put any pressure on him.
Susan Forbes understands the pressure as a former Olympian herself. Now an Anchorage teacher, Forbes repped the U.S. in France in 1992.
There's a much different climate on the team today than there was years ago. When I went to compete, there were basically 4 private coaches that were there supporting their athletes that had made the games, whereas now it's more of a team camaraderie where everybody is considered part of the team.
Forbes, who won Sunday's Alaska Ski for Women race, says she has high hopes for the state's Olympians.
Now it's much more competitive and expensive with teams, et cetera, competing. But also a higher level of performance has come about because of that. There are so many young skiers out here right now that I think are going to be quite good.
Jace Bertrand, Alaska's news source.
And now we're going to take another really short break. We'll be right back after these messages. Welcome back in, and thank you so much for continuing to join us this Tuesday morning. And if you're not happy with Phil's prediction, you're not alone. Many people feel a significant shift in their mood and motivation during these winter months. And whether Phil's right or not, there are things you can do to give yourself a boost. In today's Health Minute, Mandy Gaither has more on how to beat the 6 more weeks of winter blues.
They do more than just predict the weather. Groundhogs whistle when alarmed. They're the largest member of the squirrel family, have a constant need to gnaw, and if you hide out to survive harsh winters, you have more in common with these guys than you may realize.
As humans, we're animals too, so we can be vulnerable to hibernation, and some people are just much more vulnerable.
Clinical psychologist Craig Sawchuk with Mayo Clinic says when it's dark and cold outside, it's not uncommon for people to feel the winter blues. Symptoms may include wanting to sleep more, a drop in energy, feeling sad or down, having heavy limbs, and craving carbohydrates, which may lead to weight gain.
And then the spring and summer months, we get back to our usual baseline.
Whether Phil's right or not, you can beat the blues before spring is sprung. First, Sawchuk says lifestyle factors like exercising, staying connected, and maintaining a regular sleep schedule while avoiding oversleeping can all help. So can light therapy. He says using a light box can improve your mood. There's also cognitive behavioral therapy and medication management.
When those symptoms start to become more prominent, they start to cause problems in day-to-day living, then that's when we look at a difference between just having winter blues versus actually being a problem of clinical concern.
For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
Sawchuk says that if symptoms make it hard to take care of things around the house, to NerdWallet, 18% of holiday shoppers last year used buy now, pay later methods, which from investigator Rachel DePompa has advice from an expert on ways consumers can manage their debt.
The holidays are probably starting to pop up. Sarah Rathner with NerdWallet says this is the time to buckle down and take stock of where you are financially. If you still have buy now, pay later plans that
fees or interest depending on the nature of the buy now, pay later plan you've entered. And so there are consequences if you're unable to make these payments on time.
Rathner says entering into a buy now, pay later plan isn't going to affect your credit score in terms of having a new loan on your record. But missing a payment, that's going to get reported to the credit bureaus.
You know, you work really hard to get your credit score to a certain point, and one missed payment can more than undo all of the effort that you've put in, not just for buy now, pay later, but also missing payments for credit card bills and other loans as well. And so as much as you're able to, you want to make payments on time to keep all of those accounts in good standing.
Rathner says go back and look at your holiday-related spending. See where you may have splurged. Take note for next year. And start a savings fund now for the holidays next year so you can save up throughout the year and not have to rely on buy now, pay later or credit cards next December. With this Watching Your Wallet, I'm Rachel DePompa.
And inspiration abound as East Anchorage High School Saturday for the Indigenous Education Student Fashion and Vendor Show. Charlie Fellows shows us the event is bringing generations together, celebrating Indigenous culture and growing into a powerful community event.
Later.
It's an overwhelming feeling. You get so much, you can literally feel your ancestors walking with you.
It feels like a miniature AFN, a miniature Ferrandi, and I just really love it. I love to see my friends and family.
My mom creates really beautiful works, so for me to be able to represent it at the best of my abilities, it means a lot to me. It shows how strong our community is, being able to come together every year now and every year it just keeps getting better and better, and it's just something that makes us stronger because we're together and sharing, seeing not only our cultures being represented, but seeing everybody else representing their culture very confidently.
When the young women, it's mostly young women from the school district, started doing this a number of years ago to bring the community together across generations. We did it at roaming in a little hallway, and there was only several of us, and it's grown to, I think there's like over 90 tables. I think it's really important to have connection because we're a people of connection.
Even though we're still at a high school, it's very different. You see a lot of familiar faces, lots of smiling. I already know my cheeks are going to hurt from smiling at the end of this.
And we are going to take one last short final break. And when we come back, we'll have segments such as take a look at this, funny moments from the internet that you might have missed, and the good side, which is always a very good time. So stick with us and we'll have those stories very soon. Welcome back in, and if you are experiencing some difficulties on your end, that is some technical difficulties that we are dealing with, and we are so sorry for that. But hopefully you'll be able to catch this on our streaming platforms as well. So our next story, high school freshman is pinning adversity to the mat. Excuse me. She's blind and found her place and power on the wrestling team. Sean Mahoney introduces us.
As soon as I stepped on the mat, it's like I can't walk away. I can't walk away from wrestling.
Zoe Armbruster is following her passion just like any other high school freshman, but she just has one challenge that stands in her way. Zoe is blind. She was diagnosed with congenital glaucoma in 2013, a disease which took away her sight quickly. But when she found the Rincon girls wrestling team, she finally found the acceptance she had searched for.
Without wrestling, I feel like a little bit of an outcast at school. And with wrestling, I feel like I belong.
How are you feeling after that first match?
I was like, it's like you want to wrestle, even if she wasn't blind. I'm like, that's a brutal sport.
Say A, B. Okay, say A, B. Yeah, she said ow.
Now, despite warranted concern from her mom early on, once Zoe hit the mat,
Come on, Zoe! Come on,
she understood Zoe's why.
She goes, "You're a team of one." I'm like, "Well, what do you mean you're a team of one?" She goes, "You know, I have my teammates, but when I'm on the mat, I'm challenging myself, always to get better."
And wrestling might be the perfect sport for that challenge, because once you hit the mat, it's all about feeling rather than what you can or can't see.
You're hearing it too. Yep. Push, pull.
Now, it helps having the voice of jiu-jitsu black belt and decorated combat sports athlete Mercedes White in Zoe's ear coaching her.
You don't need your eyes to wrestle, you need to feel.
Now, much of White's team, like Zoe, had never played a sport before, so she decided to use that disadvantage to her advantage. How? By putting everyone on the same level.
All of us will practice with blinders, first of all.
Focusing on sounds.
Drive.
Hands-on training.
Good.
And a little tough love.
Yeah, you're being nice. Why are you being nice?
Leading Zoe to a feat even she didn't know was possible. She scored a pin.
It was like I finally achieved something, one of my goals.
And while Zoe is the center of our story, she says thanks to this team, she doesn't feel any different from any other Rincon Ranger.
I don't think they care that I'm blind. They just care that I'm here and care about me.
Because according to her, everyone has the ability.
Even though it seems hard, it's going to be hard, it's going to be painful, but in the end, it's going to turn out great.
Excuse me, my microphone was down. Who says half a marathon needs to be all sweat and no sugar? Some runners overseas are putting a sweet spin on the race, and Tina Kraus shows us.
Runners are warming up for a race like no other, as bakeries in Denmark's capital city prepare to serve up the ultimate motivation. This is Copenhagen's Bun Run, where it's less about sculpting buns and more about sampling every cream-filled treat along the way. Bakeries and just happens to clock exactly 13.1 miles, giving runners a half marathon powered by pastries.
It's wonderful. Wonderful.
Runners from all over the globe are joining in.
I am quite full, I have to say now, and that was a new challenge.
The Bun Run is already taking off in the U.S.
We've been doing New York, Amsterdam, we're soon doing Los Angeles. We have people from all over the world who ask us to come to their city to do this exact bakery run.
The race goes for much of the day, long enough for legs and stomachs to feel the burn.
Feel a bit sick.
Not so good. But I'm enjoying the buns.
And organizers say that's what it's all about, slowing down to digest life's sweetest moments. Tina Kraus, CBS News.
Runners from New York and even from right here in Alaska flew to Denmark for this year's Bun Run. Nearly 12,000 people get a spot, but only 300 got a bite of the action. And a raccoon is living its best life in Eastern Europe after officials unpacking a shipping container in Belarus found it stowed away inside a vehicle that had been shipped from America. Jeremy Roth has today's. Take a look at this.
Customs officials in Belarus were surprised to find a furry stowaway inside a car that had made a lengthy journey all the way from the United States. According to a press release, the Belarusian State Customs Committee says the vehicle was being unpacked from a shipping container when they spotted the live raccoon on the dashboard. Officials believe the pint-sized passenger had endured the long journey across the ocean with no food or water and turned it over to a local veterinary specialist for quarantine and care. A subsequent post said while options were being considered for the future home of the stowaway, nicknamed Senya, it had developed a friendly disposition as well as a healthy taste for grapes and chicken eggs. Speaking of a wild ride, take a look at a close call captured on dashcam on an Oklahoma highway, where a semi-truck was crowded in its lane and forced onto the shoulder where it lost its traction and spun 180 degrees around, coming to rest backwards and in the face of oncoming traffic. According to the Tulsa PD, no one was injured, but the semi did have to drive back to an off-ramp in the wrong direction to get its trailer back in the right direction. Well, I suppose it could have gone worse. A lot worse. A semi-truck in North Carolina met a tragic and somewhat predictable end when it got stuck trying to cross some snowy railroad tracks. The driver and others were surveying the scene when an oncoming train started bearing down, sending them scurrying to a safe distance, from which they watched the stuck truck bite the big one. Officials say no one was injured in the collision and shared the scene on social media as a cautionary tale of why staying off the roads in extreme inclement weather is a good idea. For Take a Look at This, I'm Jeremy Roth.
Now take a look at this out of Bolivia. They are having a carnival and they're dressing up their furry friends. They're dressing up their furry children. Look at this. A whole bunch of different, they're celebrating and they have a whole bunch of different costumes for their beloved pets. Let's see which ones that we can, I see patterns, I see many different characters. And this is an annual tradition, again, out of Bolivia. And this is the way they are celebrating. This is how they're celebrating this annual tradition with pets and a parade. And it seems like so much fun. Oh, look at that. A little bad pup moment. Ooh. A fancy dress moment. Oh, and an ambulance. Okay. I see the nurse. And a little princess and Cinderella. Oh, how cute. Oh, well, very good times are happening in Bolivia. And thank you so much for joining us. That wraps up the Morning Edition Extra for this Tuesday morning. Thank you for joining us and for starting off your morning with Alaska's news source. And have a wonderful rest of your day. We'll see you back here at noon for more.